Welcome to Wild Bill's Media and the Arts podcast. Today we're going to talk about Waylon Jennings, and we're also going to talk about the box set Nashville Rebel. But before we get into that, I just want to talk about Waylon the man, the outlaw movement, and basically this box set. Waylon pretty much got his start in music, playing, for Buddy Holly and everything, and he was a part of the Winter Dance tour there. And the night that Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big Bopper died, Waylon Jennings was supposed to board the plane with him, but he gave up his seat to the Big Bopper. And anyway, so when the plane took off that night, they died. Well, make a long story short, if Waylon would have died that night, he wouldn't have been here to give us some of the greatest music that's ever been on the planet. Waylon was devastated for a while, went on, started a band called Waylon and the Wailers. Started playing clubs and stuff around Texas. Then went to Arizona and started playing a lot of shows there. And he was actually making a pretty good living playing in Arizona. And that was where he met Willie Nelson. And he asked Willie, he says, how you think I'd do in Nashville, or what's Nashville like? And Willie told him pretty much that Nashville would break his heart. Nashville just wasn't for him, but he didn't take Willie's advice, and anyway, so he went to Nashville, and he got a record deal, started, recording albums and songs. He did it the Nashville way. Didn't have any success at it. Then he got a new manager, Wayne Gresham, or something Gresham, I think was his name. And anyway, he, under new management, got a new deal in Nashville. He signed with RCA Records, and RCA Records at the time, usually when you sign a deal with RCA, you had to record in RCA studios. You had to use RCA record producers, everything. But Waylon got a deal where he could record his own music anywhere he wanted to, how he wanted to, everything. He had total control over his music. And so he started recording at Glazer's Sound Studios, which they deemed it as Hillbilly Central. He recorded there, so did Waylon, or so did Willie, and Jesse Coulter, his wife. And anyway, they had, after Waylon done it the Nashville way, and like I said, he got a new record deal and started doing it his way, the hits started coming, just one right after another. He just kept pumping them out. And he was considered the black sheep of Nashville because Nashville was mad because he was making it his own way instead of doing it the Nashville way. And then in 1976, they put together a compilation album that was released in January of 1976 called Wanted, The Outlaws, which featured Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, Jesse Coulter, and Paul Glazer. That gave Nashville its first ever platinum record, or country music is very first platinum record. It sold over 1 million copies and then sold another 1 million after that. and the outlaw movement pretty much had begun, but it actually already had begun, but it was sort of kind of what solidified it was the outlaw movement. And then Willie and some of the other artists got deals like Waylon and started making their music their own way. And you know, and Nashville didn't like it none at all, and because they weren't doing it the Nashville way. I can tell you a few artists today that are doing it their way, and one of them is there at church. But that's going to be another episode for another time. But Waylon always had this idea or this thought in his head, and he would always say, "Did Hank do it this way? Would Hank have done it this way?" And he actually wrote a song called Are You Sure Hank Done It This Way? And basically, I mean, Waylon had sit there and done everything that Nashville didn't want him to do. You know, he was living that outlaw lifestyle. He was, everything that the establishment didn't want. But he proved the one thing that you can do it your own way. And, it speaks for itself. It really does. When Waylon finally, got over his drug addiction and all that stuff, he just become better as a performer and even better as a songwriter. He sung and he done a lot of songs or a few songs with Willie Nelson, which was one of his best friends of all time. Him and Willie shared the stage and the studio and a friendship for a long time, and it was a friendship that lasted till his death in 2002. Waylon was, to me, the heart of the outlaw movement. He was the one that truly brought the outlaw movement to the forefront. Waylon just, like I said, he just had that look. He didn't have that Nashville look. And, he had the beard and he had that hat that he wore, and, he dressed and the way he dressed and everything. And Nashville just couldn't stand it, man. He was called the black sheep of Nashville. But that was okay to him because, he did it his own way. But Waylon Jennings, before I get to talking about this Nashville Rebel set here, influenced not only other country artists, but many artists of other genres. For instance, the lead singer of Metallica, James Hetfield, was a huge Waylon fan. Loved Waylon Jennings. And Waylon was one of his biggest influences outside of, metal music. And in this box set, I wanted to show you something really cool. There's a picture in here, right there, of James Hetfield of Metallica and Waylon Jennings. And a little side note, here not too long ago, a few years back, they put out a Waylon Jennings tribute album. And James Hetfield did a cover of Don't You Think This Outlaw Bitch Done Got Out of Hand. And he played the guitar, the bass, the drums, and everything on that track. He did it all on his own. And it was a tribute to Waylon. And because he was, Waylon was one of his biggest influences. But he brought us to, Waylon brought us tunes like Mama Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys, Good Hearted Woman, Luke and Buck, Texas. I've always been crazy. Don't you think this outlaw bit soon got out of hand? Good Old Boys, the theme of Dukes of Hazzard, which is probably one of his biggest, most notable songs because of the TV show, the Dukes of Hazzard. The Conversation was a great song. And of course, the Highwaymen that he did with Willie Nelson, Chris Christopherson, and Johnny Cash. But what else can you say about an artist who pretty much forefronted a movement that's still viable today, the outlaw movement? And without Waylon, I don't think that movement would have even been possible. But what I wanted to talk about was this album here called Nashville Road. This is a 4-disc set with a pretty thick book, as you can tell. It's got all kind of pictures and stories and everything in it. But this set starts off, disc 1 goes from 1958 to 1969. Disc 2 goes from 1970 to 74. Disc 3 goes from 74 to 80. And then from 1980 to 95. And then about 1997, Waylon pretty much retired from touring and stayed home and with his family and everything. And then around about, I think 2001, 2002, he started having some health problems. He eventually had to amputate a foot due to diabetes, and then later on died in early 2002 from complications of diabetes. But Waylon Jennings will always be one of my biggest artists of all time. I've got a top 5 list of artists that will always be my top 5 country artists, and Waylon's in that top 5. His music and will always be a part of my collection. Will always be the go-to outlaw that I want to go to. But you can pick this set up. Like I said, it's a 4-disc set. I meant to show you. Hold on. So the discs are in here like this. Okay. So it's a 4-disc set that spans his whole career. The only thing you won't find out here was the last recordings of Waylon Jennings. They did an album called Going Down Rockin', and that was the last recordings he done, and that come out about 2013, something like that, I think. And that was because he had worked on some songs and pretty much had done the acoustic versions of them. And he asked one of his friends and bandmate to finish the album one day. And they finally did and brought it out. And man, it is great. But if you can find it, it's called Waylon Jennings Going Down Rockin'. But yeah, I mean, this set has all of his classic stuff, the more notable stuff, but it has a lot of stuff from his early career that maybe you've never heard and would want to take a peek at or listen to, because it's just great music all around. I mean, you can't go wrong. Hell, it's Waylon Jennings. Like I said, I have a top five, which includes Eric Church, Chris Ledoux, Garth Brooks, Waylon Jennings. I don't know. I'd maybe have to say Luke Combs in that top five realm there. I mean, that's an elite group on one hand. You know, I don't know. I would have to tie maybe five with Willie Nelson. But it was just, yeah, you can't go wrong. But they do have that set on Amazon. It's about $35 for the 2 disc set there, or 4 disc set. And there's also a DVD that kind of goes along with this, and it's a bunch of, I think, like live performances, and I think it might have a few videos on there. But it's nothing really spectacular, but it's pretty cool. It's like songs that recorded at like different concerts. I think it might have had like one or two music. I know it has the music video for The Conversation, the song he did with Hank Williams Jr. It's on there, and it's called the same thing, Waylon Nashville Rebel. So yeah, there's also a DVD to this. But thank you, Waylon, for your music. You're, just a great songwriter, and all the things you brought to country music, the outlaw movement, was pretty much spearheaded because of you. And without you, we probably wouldn't have some of the artists we have today. That is for sure. So if you're a country man, if you're a country music fan, I'm talking about a true country music fan, and you love outlaws and you love outlaw music, pick this set up. I recommend some Waylon, and I'm recommending some Willie and some Jesse Coulter, some Chris Christopherson, some Johnny Cash. You can't go wrong with any of those artists. Merle Haggard for sure. So yeah, that's about all I have today. But may Waylon rest in peace, and his music forever live on. And if you have a country music playlist and you don't have Waylon in there, then shame on you. Well, that's all I have today for Wild Bill's Media and the Arts podcast. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And that's it. You have a blessed day. Thank you.